Once, in the heart of the desolate farmlands of Wisconsin, there lived a monster. Not the kind born from myth or folklore, but one stitched together from madness, grief, and something far darker. His name was Ed Gein, but those who spoke of him in hushed whispers called him the Butcher of Shadows. For in his crumbling farmhouse, where the air hung heavy with decay, he transformed death into something monstrous, something alive. The story begins in Plainfield, a town so small it seemed forgotten by the world. But among its quiet streets and fields of corn, there was one house no one dared to approach. It stood at the end of a lonely road, its windows dark, its walls sagging as though the earth itself wanted to swallow it whole. This was Ed's house. And it was said that at night, strange lights flickered inside, accompanied by low, guttural sounds that no one could explain. Ed Gein wasn't born a monster, he was made. His mother, Augusta, was the sculptor of his twisted soul. A woman as cold and rigid as a gravestone, she filled Ed's head with tales of sin and damnation, of women who were temptresses and men who were weak. She was his world, his goddess, and her death shattered something inside him. When she was gone, the house became her tomb, and Ed, its keeper. For years, Ed lived in isolation, wandering the fields by day and retreating to the darkness of his home by night. The townsfolk saw him as strange but harmless, a lonely man with a shy smile. But they didn't see the truth. They didn't see the shadow that followed him, the one he welcomed into his soul. It whispered to him, teaching him how to keep the dead alive. And Ed listened. The first victim of his darkness was Mary Hogan, the bar owner with a laugh that could shake the rafters. One day, she was gone. Her tavern, empty except for a dark stain on the floor. People said she left town, but Ed knew better. He had taken her, claimed her for his collection. Then came Bernice Worden, the hardware store owner. She vanished on a cold November day, leaving behind only an empty cash register and a smear of blood. When the police followed the trail to Ed's house, what they found inside was not the home of a man but the lair of a beast. The farmhouse was no longer a house, it was a temple to death. The walls were adorned with masks made from human faces, their hollow eyes staring into nothingness. Chairs and tables were crafted from bones, lampshades sewn from human skin. A belt made of severed nipples hung like a grotesque trophy, and in the kitchen, a soup bowl carved from a human skull sat waiting to be used. But the shed was the heart of Ed's darkness. There, hanging upside down like a slaughtered animal, was Bernice Worden. Her body was mutilated, hollowed out as though Ed had tried to carve her into something new. Something beautiful. The truth was that Ed wasn't just a killer, he was an artist of the macabre. He didn't simply take lives, he reshaped them, molded them into twisted forms that only he could understand. He exhumed corpses from the local graveyard, peeling away their skin and flesh, crafting them into objects, tools, even clothing. In his madness, Ed believed he could bring his mother back. Piece by piece, he was building her, creating her from the fragments of the dead. The house itself seemed alive with his obsession, each room a grotesque monument to his despair and lunacy. When the authorities finally uncovered the horrors within, the world recoiled. How could a man, create such atrocities? The answer was simple, Ed Gein was no man. He was a creature forged from grief, isolation, and the darkest corners of the human mind. But monsters like Ed don't disappear. Though he was locked away, his shadow remains. His story has been whispered through generations, inspiring nightmares, films, and tales of terror. He became the blueprint for horror's greatest villains, Leatherface, Norman Bates, Buffalo Bill, each a fragment of the monster that Ed truly was. Some say his spirit still lingers in the ruins of his farmhouse, which was burned to the ground by fearful townsfolk. They claim that on certain nights, when the moon is low and the wind carries a chill, you can hear the sound of footsteps in the fields, and the faint creak of a door swinging open. If you listen closely, you might even hear a voice, soft and haunting, calling out into the darkness, "Mother? Now should you hear, in the dead of night, a ghastly lull they call Butcher's Delight, know your time on this earth is almost near, the Butcher has found you and he preys on your fear. Hush now, child, don't you cry. The shadows creep, the spirits sigh. Beneath the earth, the secrets keep. where the butcher dreams in restless sleep. Bone and skin, a mother's call. In the house where screaming silence falls. Close your eyes, don't you peek, for he walks in nights bleak. Hush-a-bye, not a sound. The butcher walks, his blade unwound. Through fields of bone, he carves the night, building shadows in the pale moonlight. Skin and bone, a mother's call. In his house, they haunt the halls. Close your eyes, hold your breath. Ed's awake, and he feeds on death. And so, the tale of Ed Gein ends where it began, in the shadows. But remember, dear listener, shadows never truly disappear. They wait, silent and patient, for the next soul foolish enough to walk into the dark. Join the other Untolds now and learn more about the monsters that stir in the night. Like, subscribe and follow for more dark fables untold.